Welcome to HOA Karen Files, where we unravel HOA dramas that'll shock you to your core. Today's story is a gut-wrench about a man who was Greenhaven's heartbeat, broken when fake HOA cops made a callous choice. His wife collapses, medics are so close, but a locked gate steals their chance. The law barely touches the culprits, but a town's rage and one woman's guilt tear down an empire. This is 40 minutes of raw emotion, love, pain, and a fight for what's right. Grab a seat, hit subscribe, and let's dive into Greenhaven's darkest days. What happens when rules crush humanity? Let's find out. Greenhaven was a postcard suburb where summer evenings buzzed with fireflies and kids raced bikes down oak-shaded lanes. By June 2023, its bungalows on Azalea Lane held a stubborn charm, porches sagging just right, daisies poking through fences. Daniel Harper, 68, and Marie, 66, were the soul of it all. Their clapboard house, free from the Greenhaven HOA thanks to a 1948 deed, was a haven. Daniel, a retired electrician with a crooked grin and hands like old leather, fixed everything. Mrs. Larson's flickering lamp, Joey's wobbly skateboard, the community center's shorted Christmas lights. His toolbox rattled, his puns groaned, but neighbors always left smiling. Marie, her silver braid catching sunlight, grew daisies that spilled wild. White, yellow, a quiet rebellion against clipped lawns. Their potlucks were Greenhaven's pulse. Every July, their backyard swelled, Daniel grilling burgers, Marie weaving daisy crowns for kids like Lisa, a 17-year-old barista with a quick laugh. Tom, a 35-year-old firefighter, hauled over chili, trading jabs with Daniel about spices. Mr. Hayes, a widowed grump, shuffled in for Marie's pecan pie, muttering thanks. The Harpers had no kids, but Greenhaven filled that hole. Joey's gap-toothed grin, Lisa's selfies, Mrs. Larson's gossip. They'd met in '76, Daniel a shy apprentice, Marie a clerk who'd slipped him her number with a wink. Their first date, a county fair, soaked by rain, ended in laughter, binding 48 years through job losses, a miscarriage, and time's slow wear. But Greenhaven was shifting. In 2019, Karen Whitaker, 52, a realtor with a bleach blonde bob and eyes like flint, grabbed the HOA reins after a developer's fraud left it shaky. She built a kingdom, arming locals as fake HOA cops in dark blue uniforms, HOA stitched bold in white. Golf carts prowled, fines flew, $1.50 for a crooked shutter, $100 for a loud dog. Her rules choked the town. No bright paint, no chalk art, no flowers past a curb. Daniel and Marie's daisies drew Karen's scowl, but their exemption held her at bay. She'd pace their fence, clipboard twitching, muttering about standards. Neighbors swapped stories of her Chicago days, corporate ruthlessness, no friends, but none stood up. By May 2023, Karen's grip tightened. At a packed HOA meeting, she stood at a podium, voice sharp. Greenhaven slipping, she said, her slides flashing violations, a kid's tricycle, a faded gnome. We need order. Her big reveal. No emergency vehicles without gate clearance, for property values. Tom leapt up. That's insane. Someone could die. Karen's smile didn't budge. Forms, Thomas. Trust us. Greg, her 48-year-old enforcer, loomed, his HOA badge glinting. Sarah, 29, a new cop with tired eyes, scribbled notes, her pen pausing. She joined for rent money. Not this, but Karen's stare kept her in line. Daniel and Marie skipped the meeting, weeding their garden, blind to the storm brewing. June 12, 2023, dawned warm. Daniel and Marie knelt in their daisy beds, dirt on their jeans. They teased about their first kiss, 76, a pier, rain dripping. You tripped, Marie giggled. Daniel tossed a weed. And you fell for me. Marie reached for a daisy, her hand trembling. Her face twisted, temple clutched. Dan, her voice slurred, and she crumpled, petals scattering. Daniel's heart stopped. Marie. He dropped beside her, pulse faint. His phone, 911, voice breaking, stroke, Azalea Lane, hurry. The operator promised medics in 7 minutes. Daniel held Marie, her eyes half open, whispering, "Stay, love." Sirens wailed, then stalled. 5 minutes, no lights. Daniel kissed her forehead, ran to the street, and froze. The ambulance idled at Greenhaven's iron gate, locked. Greg stood firm. HOA, uniform crisp, padlock in hand. Sarah shifted, eyes down. Karen strode up, clipboard tight. No form, no entry, she snapped. Daniel begged, she's dying. Greg shoved him. Rules, Harper. Sarah's fingers twitched, but she stayed silent. Tom's truck screeched up. He yelled, open it. Karen's lips curled. Protocol. 18 minutes dragged. Marie's lips blew, before Karen tossed Greg the key, annoyed. Medics rushed through, oxygen mask on, but her pulse was a thread. At St. Luke's, the neurologist's words cut. Massive stroke. Right side paralysis, hemiplegia. The delay cost oxygen. She may never walk or talk fully. Daniel held Marie's limp hand. Daisies crushed in his pocket, Greenhaven's warmth gone cold. July 2023 settled over Greenhaven like a damp fog, heavy and unrelenting. Daniel Harper, once the town's fixer with a grin for every neighbor, moved through his days like a ghost. Marie, his wife of 48 years, was no longer the woman who'd weave daisy crowns or hum while baking pecan pie. Her stroke on June 12th had stolen half her body, her right side paralyzed, her speech reduced to slurs. At St. Luke's rehab wing, she sat in a wheelchair, her silver braid loose, staring at a hand that wouldn't move. Daniel learned her new language, blinking twice for yes, a grunt for tired. He'd spoon-feed her oatmeal, wipe her chin, and force a smile when her eyes, still sharp, met his. We'll get through, love, he'd say, but the words tasted like ash. Their bungalow on Azalea Lane, once alive with laughter, echoed with silence. Daisies wilted outside, untended, as if they knew Marie couldn't reach them. Daniel's nights were worse. He'd lie on his side of the bed, Marie's pillow untouched, replaying that day at the gate. Karen Whitaker's cold, no form, no entry. Greg's shove. Sarah's frozen silence. The ambulance's red lights, so close yet useless. He'd clutch Marie's wedding ring, now on a chain around his neck, and whisper, I should have broken it down. Guilt gnawed. Had he ignored too many of Karen's fines, thinking their exempt lot was untouchable? Could he have argued harder, run faster? Sleep came in fits, broken by dreams of Marie falling, daisies turning to dust. By morning, he'd brew coffee, check Marie's meds, and start again, each task a tether to her. Greenhaven tried to hold him up. Tom, the firefighter who'd raced to the gate that day, dropped off casseroles, his buzz cut damp from station shifts. You're not alone, Dan, he'd say, lingering awkwardly. Lisa, the 17-year-old barista, painted Marie's nails pink, chattering about school to fill the quiet. Mrs. Larson, 82, left voicemails. Come for tea, Daniel. You need it. Even Mr. Hayes, the block's curmudgeon, slipped a loaf of zucchini bread by the door, no note. Daniel nodded thanks, but his warmth was gone, his toolbox gathering dust. He'd wheel Marie to their porch, pointing at birds, hoping her faint nod meant something. Neighbors saw the change. Daniel's shoulders slumped, his eyes distant, like a man carrying a mountain. Tom wouldn't let it rest. Over beers on July 10th, he leaned in, voice low. They can't walk free, Dan. That gate, it's on them. Daniel stared at his bottle, peeling the label. What's suing gonna fix? She's not walking. Tom's jaw tightened. It's justice. For her. Something in Marie's tired smile the next day, when Daniel read her a letter from Lisa, pushed him. He called Ellen Tran, a 40-year-old lawyer known for tearing HOAs apart. On July 15th, Ellen sat in their living room, her sharp suit a contrast to the faded couch. Their rule was baseless, she said, flipping through the 1948 deed. Your lot's exempt, no HOA jurisdiction. The delay caused her hemiplegia. We'll sue for negligence, $2 million for care, pain, everything. Daniel clutched a daisy from their yard, its petals curling. Just make them pay, he said, voice low. Ellen filed the suit on July 20th, 2023, naming the Greenhaven HOA, Karen, Greg, and Sarah. Word spread fast. Neighbors whispered at the diner. Lisa posted on X, her video of Karen's gate sneer hitting 600,000 views by August. Comments flooded. Jail her. Save Marie. The trial, set for November 3rd, pulled Greenhaven like a magnet. Daniel hated the attention but drove to rehab daily, helping Marie grip a therapy ball, her left hand trembling. "For you," he'd whisper, kissing her forehead. He rebuilt their porch ramp, sanding it smooth, but skipped the July potluck, unable to face the crowd. Lisa brought him leftovers, her eyes wet. "We're with you, Mr. H." Daniel nodded, but alone, he'd traced the gate's image in his mind, its iron bars a cage. The courthouse, a gray slab downtown, buzzed on November 3rd, 2023. Reporters camped outside, Mia from Channel 7 interviewing Tom. "It was heartless," he said, voice cracking. Inside, Daniel sat, a daisy in his jacket, as Ellen opened. She held up a photo of Marie's garden, daisies glowing. "This is what they stole," she said. "A woman's life, a town's heart." Tom testified first, his firefighter boots scuffing the stand. "I heard Daniel beg, 'She's dying.' Karen just stood there, clipboard out. Greg shoved me when I tried to help." Sarah looked scared but didn't move. 18 minutes, and Marie was turning blue. Lisa followed, her video playing on a screen, Karen's protocol, Greg's glare, Daniel's shout. The room gasped. A juror wiped her eyes. Karen's lawyer, Bradley Voss, was a corporate shark, gray suit, voice like oil. He called Daniel a chronic violator, flashing old fines for daisies, a mailbox tilt. "The HOA acted in good faith," Bradley said. "They followed rules to protect the community. No intent to harm, so no crime." He leaned on a 2019 state code, arguing the delay wasn't willful recklessness for manslaughter, just a policy error. Ellen countered, citing the deed. Their rule had no power on Harper's lot. They knew it. Bradley called neighbors who'd paid Karen's fines, painting Daniel as a rebel. He ignored warnings for years, one said, avoiding Daniel's gaze. Daniel gripped his daisy, petals crumbling, as Bradley's words stung. Had he brought this on Marie? Karen took the stand on November 7th, her bob perfect, voice clipped. "Procedure protects Greenhaven," she said. "Emergencies need oversight to avoid chaos. Daniel's lot caused issues, daisies everywhere, no compliance." Ellen pounced. "Oversight? You locked out medics for a stroke patient." Karen's smile twitched. "We opened it eventually." Ellen held up Lisa's video transcript. 18 minutes, Ms. Whitaker. "Why wait?" Karen's eyes flicked to Greg, who stared at the floor. Sarah, called next, mumbled, "I followed orders." Her hands shook. Daniel met her gaze, not angry, just empty. Ellen's final witness, a neurologist, was blunt. The delay cut oxygen. Marie's paralysis is permanent. Speech, mobility, gone. Daniel's chest tightened, the room blurring. The jury deliberated 4 days, Greenhaven holding its breath. Daniel stayed with Marie, reading her old love letters from '76, scribbled notes about fairs, dreams. Her left hand squeezed his, a spark of her old fire. On December 10th, 2023, the verdict came. The bailiff read, "We find the Greenhaven HOA liable for negligence. Damages, $750,000. A murmur rippled. Too little for Marie's lifelong care, therapy, nurses. No criminal charges. The delay didn't meet reckless under state law." Bradley smirked, shaking Karen's hand. "A balanced outcome," he told me outside. Karen, in a navy blazer, added, "We'll rebuild." Daniel's a complainer. Daniel stared at the courtroom's oak table, Ellen's hand on his shoulder. "We'll appeal," she said, voice firm. He nodded, but hope felt like sand slipping through his fingers. Greenhaven didn't take it quietly. Lisa's video soared to 800,000 views. Hashtag Greenhaven HOA shame, trending on X. Mia's nightly segment replayed Tom's testimony, neighbors leaving daisies at Daniel's gate. But Karen doubled down. At a December 15th HOA meeting, the community center packed, she stood at her podium, unfazed. "Legal costs require a dues hike," she said, voice flat. Marie was an unfortunate incident, but rules matter. Tom leapt up, face red. "You broke her. You broke us." Greg, in his HOA uniform, grabbed Tom's arm, hauling him out as boos erupted. Sarah, on duty, avoided Daniel's eyes, her hands trembling with something unspoken, guilt, maybe, or fear. Daniel drove home, Marie asleep beside him, and planted a daisy in their yard under moonlight. "This isn't over, love," he whispered, the town's anger simmering, a storm waiting to break. January 2024 draped Greenhaven in a brittle frost, the kind that cracked underfoot and mirrored the town's fragile heart. Daniel Harper, once Azalea Lane's handyman who'd fix a porch light with a wink, was a shadow at 68. Marie's stroke on June 12, 2023, had carved him hollow. Her right side stayed limp, her speech a tangle of slurs, 6 months of rehab, and hello still came out HOA. Daniel had learned her new rhythm, a slow blink for yes, a sigh for pain. Their bungalow, once loud with potluck chatter, was quiet save for the hum of Marie's wheelchair motor. He'd push her to their front window, pointing at sparrows hopping on frost-tipped daisies, hoping her faint nod meant she saw them too. "Look, love," he'd say, voice soft, "they're still here." But his own light flickered, dimmed by the courtroom's sting. The December verdict, $750,000, no criminal charges, sat like lead in Daniel's chest. It wasn't enough for Marie's nurses, therapy, or years ahead in a chair. Karen Whitaker's smirk as she left the courthouse, telling Mia, Daniel's a complainer, played on loop in his mind. He'd rebuilt their porch ramp, sanded it smooth for Marie's wheels, but couldn't rebuild himself. Nights were the worst. He'd lie awake, Marie's side of the bed cold, clutching her wedding ring on its chain. The gate haunted him, Karen's clipboard, Greg's shove, Sarah's silence. "I should have smashed it," he'd mutter, guilt clawing. Had he ignored too many HOA fines, thinking their 1948 deed made them untouchable? Could he have run faster, fought harder? Sleep dodged him, broken by dreams of Marie falling, daisies wilting to ash. Greenhaven tried to cradle them. Tom, the 35-year-old firefighter who'd raced to the gate, mowed their lawn between shifts, his buzzcut flecked with grass. "We're here, Dan," he'd say, lingering. Lisa, 17, brought her laptop to rehab, playing Marie's favorite 70s songs, Fleetwood Mac, mostly, hoping to spark a smile. Mrs. Larson, 82, baked muffins, her arthritis-swollen hands trembling as she left them at Daniel's door. Even Mr. Hayes, the block's grump, dropped off a thermos of soup, muttering, "Don't let it go cold." Daniel nodded thanks, but his toolbox stayed shut, his jokes buried. He'd wheel Marie to their backyard, where he'd rigged a low trellis so her left hand could touch daisies. Her fingers brushed a petal, and she slurred, "Dan," clear enough to stop his heart. He kissed her knuckles, whispering, "That's my girl." But alone, he felt like a man drowning. The town's anger simmered, stoked by Lisa's video, now at 800,000 views, #Greenhaven #shame trending. Mia's Channel 7 segments, replaying Tom's testimony, drew daisies to Daniel's gate, left by strangers moved by Marie's story. But Karen's grip held. Her fake HOA cops, in their dark blue HOA uniforms, patrolled harder post-verdict. On January 5th, Daniel found his truck's tire slashed, a note tucked under the wiper. "Drop the appeal." He burned it in the sink, jaw tight, but the harassment piled up, a cracked mailbox, dog waste on his steps. Greg's golf cart idled outside at midnight, flashlight probing their windows. Daniel stood at his door, gripping a wrench, but didn't swing. "Not worth it," he told Marie, her eyes worried. He wanted to fight, but for her, not himself. Tom pushed back. Over coffee on January 10th, his firefighter boots scuffed from a call, he leaned in. "They're scared, Dan." That verdict shook him. "We keep going." Daniel stirred his mug, staring at the steam. "Going where?" "She's not walking." Tom's eyes narrowed. "To justice. For her." Daniel thought of Marie's daisy touch, her slurred "Dan," and nodded. He called Ellen Tran, their lawyer, who was already digging for an appeal. "Karen's hiding something," Ellen said, voice sharp. "I'm auditing their books. Dues don't add up." Daniel clutched a daisy, its stem bending. "Find it," he said, not sure if he believed in answers anymore. Sarah, the 29-year-old HOA cop who'd stood silent at the gate, was unraveling. She'd joined Karen's crew in 2023, desperate. Her mom's cancer bills had crushed her teacher's dream, leaving her stuck in Greenhaven with a sister, Jen, who leaned on her paychecks. Karen's orders were gospel: lock gates, write fines, stay loyal. But June 12th burned in her. Marie's collapse, Daniel's voice cracking, "She's dying." Sarah had frozen, hands trembling, as Karen snapped, "Protocol." Testifying in November had been worse. Daniel's empty stare, not angry, just broken. She'd mumbled, "I followed orders," and left the stand shaking. By January, sleep was a stranger. She'd wake gasping, seeing Marie's face, Daisies falling. Sarah saw them at rehab on January 15th, Daniel adjusting Marie's scarf with a patience that gutted her. Marie's left hand gripped a therapy ball, her right limp. Daniel whispered, "You got this, love." And Sarah turned away, tears stinging. Back at the HOA office, a squat brick building off Main Street, she sorted files to distract herself. On January 20th, she found it. A logbook, Karen's sharp scrawl, 6/12/24, stroke reported, Azalea Lane. Delay approved, KW. Proof Karen knew Marie was dying and chose to wait. Sarah's pulse raced. She slipped the page into her purse, hands sweaty, picturing Jen's voice. "Don't lose the job, Sarah." But Marie's face, Daniel's scarf, wouldn't let go. Greenhaven's pulse quickened. Lisa, fueled by her viral video, taped Daisies to street signs, her ex-posts racking up retweets. Tom grilled neighbors at the diner, asking who'd seen Greg's patrols. Mrs. Larson started a prayer chain, her living room packed with retirees muttering for Marie. Even Mr. Hayes, who'd paid Karen's fines for years, grumbled to Daniel at the mailbox. "This ain't right," he said, kicking frost. Daniel nodded, unsure if it was support or pity. He planned a potluck for February 1st, small, just to feel normal. He grilled burgers in their backyard, Marie bundled in a quilt, her wheelchair by the Daisies. Tom brought chili, Lisa her playlists, a dozen neighbors swapping stories. Daniel stood, voice low. "Marie's still here," he said, hand on her shoulder. "So are we." Lisa teared up, Tom clapped. Marie's left hand twitched, almost a wave. Karen crashed it. Her golf cart rolled up at dusk, Greg and Sarah trailing in HOA uniforms. Karen's bob gleamed under streetlights, clipboard out. "Unapproved gathering," she snapped, pen scribbling. $200 fine. Tom stepped forward. "It's their yard, Karen." Greg's hand twitched, ready to shove. Daniel met Sarah's eyes, not angry, just steady, like at rehab. Something in her cracked. She looked away, hands clenched, as Karen droned about standards. Neighbors booed. Mrs. Larson yelled, "Shame." Karen's smile tightened, but she left, Greg's cart humming off. Sarah lingered a second, staring at Daniel, then followed. That night, Sarah sat in her apartment, the logbook page on her table, Jen's voice in her head. "We need the money." She saw Daniel's face, Marie's scarf, and whispered, "No more." Lisa's video hit 1.2 million views by February 5th, comments screaming, "Jail Karen." Mia's Gated Heart segment aired February 7th, quoting Daniel, "I just want Marie home." Sarah watched, tears falling. On February 10th, she met Tom at a diner, sliding the log page across. "Karen knew," she whispered, voice shaking. Tom's jaw tightened. "You're sure?" She nodded, eyes wet. "I can't keep it." Tom took the page, his firefighter calm hiding fury. That night, he uploaded it to X, captioned, "Karen chose to hurt Marie. #Greenhaven HOA shame." Lisa boosted it, her followers spreading it like wildfire. 1.5 million views by February 12th. Greenhaven erupted. Picketers hit the HOA office February 13th, 100 strong in daylight. Daisies taped to signs. "Justice for Marie." Lisa led, megaphone in hand, chanting, "Open the gate." Kids scribbled daisies on posters. Mrs. Larson waved a rosary. Tom stood tall, eyes on the office's locked door. Karen fought back, blaming Daniel in a press release. His violations caused delays. She sent Greg to ticket his block, $50 for a loose fence board, $100 for litter, a fallen daisy. A brick grazed Daniel's window February 14th, no note, but he knew. He swept the glass, telling Marie, "They're scared, love." Ellen called, voice sharp, "The log's gold. I'm filing for fraud." Daniel nodded, but his heart was with Marie's slurred Dan, her hand on his. Mr. Hayes shifted. On February 15th, he found Daniel patching his tire, the third slash that month. "I'll fix it," Hayes grunted, hauling out a compressor. "Didn't sign up for this." Daniel paused, surprised. Hayes had backed Karen for years, fearing chaos. "Thanks," Daniel said, handing him a coffee. Hayes nodded, eyes down. That same day, Sarah quit. She marched to the HOA office, tossed her HOA badge on Karen's desk, and said, "I'm done." Karen's eyes narrowed. "You'll regret this." Sarah walked out, heart pounding, the logbook's weight gone. Mia's report aired that night, the log page filling the screen, Greenhaven chanting justice outside. Daniel watched, Marie asleep, and planted a daisy under stars. The spark was lit, and Greenhaven burned for them. March 2024 swept into Greenhaven like a wildfire, not a flame, but a fury, the kind that scorched pretense and left truth bare. The frost of January had thawed, but the town's heart burned hotter than any summer. Daniel Harper, 68, carried his grief like a worn coat, familiar, heavy, but not quite crushing him yet. Marie, 66, his wife of 48 years, was tethered to her wheelchair, her right side still limp from the stroke that struck on June 12, 2023. Her speech therapy had coaxed out halting phrases, "Dan, good," and her left hand could grip a daisy, but the vibrant woman who'd once danced barefoot at their potlucks was a shadow. Daniel had rebuilt their world for her, a low garden trellis she could reach, a ramp smooth for her wheels, a bedside lamp dimmed just right. He'd braid her silver hair each morning, humming a 70s tune she loved, and read her eyes when words failed. "We're still us," he'd whisper, kissing her knuckles, but his own eyes betrayed the ache. The $750,000 verdict from December 2023 was a bitter pill. Too little for Marie's nurses, therapy, or the years ahead, and no jail time for Karen Whitaker, whose fake HOA cops had locked the gate that cost Marie her mobility. Karen's smug, "We'll recover," to Mia's camera stung worse than the judge's gavel. Daniel's nights were battles, replaying that day. Karen's clipboard, Greg's shove, Sarah's silence. He'd clutch Marie's wedding ring, now on a chain around his neck, and mutter, "I should have stopped them." Guilt gnawed. Had their Daisy rebellion, safe on their 1948 deed-exempt lot, provoked Karen too far? Sleep came in fragments, dreams of Marie falling, daisies turning gray. Yet February's spark, Sarah's leaked log proving Karen knew about the stroke, had lit something in Greenhaven. Daniel felt it, even through his fog. The town was done bending. Lisa's video, now at 1.5 million views, had made hashtag Greenhaven a battle cry. Mia's February 13th report, flashing Karen's delay-approved note, drew strangers to leave daisies at Daniel's gate. White, yellow, wilting in piles. Neighbors tore up HOA bills, taping "no more" signs to mailboxes. The diner lost Karen's order. The grocer turned her away with a curt, "Out of stock." Tom, the 35-year-old firefighter, patrolled on foot. No uniform, just a neighbor's grit. Mrs. Larson's prayer group swelled, their rosaries clicking for Marie. Even Mr. Hayes, once Karen's loyalist, had fixed Daniel's slashed tire on February 15th, muttering, "Not right." Daniel nodded thanks, unsure if it was pity or pride, but he felt Greenhaven stirring, a pulse he hadn't heard since June. Lisa, 17 and fearless, fanned the flames. On March 1st, she posted a call on X, "Daisies for Marie, City Hall, March 5th noon." By March 3rd, her video hit 1.8 million, comments raging. In the HOA. Justice. Daniel saw it on Lisa's phone at rehab, Marie's left hand twitching to the chant. He didn't join the buzz. He was too tired, too focused on Marie's therapy, helping her trace a daisy's shape with a crayon. Her slurred "pretty" broke his heart, but he smiled, taping the sketch to their fridge. "That's you, love," he said, kissing her forehead. He skipped the March plans, letting Tom and Lisa lead, but their fire warmed him. He'd wheel Marie to their porch, pointing at kids chalking daisies on the sidewalk, her nod a quiet approval. Karen fought dirty. On March 2nd, her golf cart rolled down Azalea Lane, HOA badge gleaming, Greg at her side. She taped a $300 fine to Daniel's door. Unkempt garden. Daniel tore it up, jaw tight, but found his mailbox spray-painted "Trouble" the next day. Greg's flashlight swept their windows at midnight, a silent threat. Karen's ex-post, a rare one, blamed Daniel. Violations delay progress. Follow rules, Greenhaven. It backfired. 500 replies called her gatekeeper, and worse. Tom caught Greg slashing a neighbor's tire on March 3rd, shouting, "Back off." Greg sped off, but the town saw. Daniel swept paint chips from his drive, telling Marie, "They're scared, love." She squeezed his hand, her Dan clearer, urging him to stand. The Daisies for Marie March hit on March 5th, a Monday, under a crisp noon sun. Lisa led 500 souls, neighbors, strangers, kids with posters, down Main Street to City Hall steps. Daisies piled like snow, their scent thick. Tom carried a sign, "No more gates." Mrs. Larson waved a rosary, chanting, "For Marie." Joey, 14, who'd once skateboarded with Daniel, taped a daisy to the council door. Lisa's megaphone roared. Karen locked her out. "We lock her out." The crowd cheered, filming for X, the clip hitting 2 million views by dusk. Mia's crew caught it live, her voiceover solemn. Greenhaven says enough. Daniel didn't go. He was at rehab, helping Marie grip a spoon, her left hand shaking. Lisa texted him a photo of the daisies, captioned, "For Mrs. H." He showed Marie, her eyes wet, and whispered, "They're fighting for you." Sarah was breaking. The 29-year-old ex-HOA cop, who'd quit on February 15th after leaking Karen's log, couldn't escape June 12th. She'd stood silent as Marie faded, ordered by Karen's protocol. The log, stroke, delay approved, had been her confession to Tom, but guilt still choked her. She'd moved back with her sister, Jen, who snapped, "You threw away our rent." Sarah took a barista job, burning her hands on espresso steam, avoiding X where #Greenhaven it's a shame named her. But she watched Daniel at rehab, adjusting Marie's pillow, his patience ablate. On March 7th, Mia called her. "Tell your story," Mia said. "It's time." Sarah shook, picturing Jen's glare, Karen's threat, "You'll regret this." But Marie's face, Daniel's scarf, pushed her. On March 10th, Sarah went live on Mia's Channel 7 segment, Gated Hearts, at 6 p.m. The studio was small, lights hot, 3 million streaming. Sarah's voice shook, hands clasped. "I locked the gate," she said, eyes down. June 12th, 2023. "I heard Daniel beg, she's dying. Karen ordered me to wait. I didn't move. I'm sorry." The anchor froze. Viewers flooded X. She admitted it. "Forgive her." Daniel watched at home, Marie's hand in his, her wheelchair by the TV. He didn't speak. Her squeeze said enough. Sarah's tears fell. "I leaked the log to stop her." Karen knew. Stroke, everything, and chose to delay. Greenhaven gasped. The clip hit 3.5 million views by midnight. #Marie Matters trending globally. Karen's empire cracked. Her March 11th X post, a teary video, "I'm heartbroken for Marie," was mocked, 10,000 replies calling it crocodile tears. The diner put her face on a no-service sign. Ellen Tran, Daniel's lawyer, struck harder. On March 12th, she filed a fraud suit, her audit of HOA books uncovering $600,000 misspent. Karen spa trips, a yacht rental, fake invoices for consultants. The HOA office boarded up March 13th, its bank accounts frozen by a judge. Karen's bribe to a councilman, caught on Mia's mic March 14th, "Fix this, or I'm out," leaked the next day, for million views. Greenhaven roared. Shops refused her cards. Her realty sign was egged. Greg, her last cop, wavered, his HOA uniform crumpled in his truck. Daniel stayed apart, his world Marie. He'd sit by her, teaching her to paint. Daisies, wobbly but hers. Her left hand smeared yellow, her laugh a soft grunt. On March 15th, Lisa sold one online for $200, texting Daniel. For stroke research. He framed it, whispering, "You're still you." Karen offered a $300,000 settlement March 16th. Her lawyers called desperate. "Take it, Dan," Ellen said, "or we push fraud." Daniel refused. "Not about cash," he told Marie, her eyes proud. He'd wheel her to their garden, daisies blooming despite the chaos, and feel her strength. Slurred words, shaky hands, but alive. Greenhaven's fight was for them, but Daniel's was here, in their quiet. The town kept pushing. Tom started a watch group. No uniforms, just neighbors checking alleys. Mrs. Larson's fundraiser hit $3,000 for Marie's therapy, her church packed. Mr. Hayes, fully turned, planted a daisy by Daniel's gate on March 17th, muttering, "I was wrong." Joey, the skateboard kid, scrubbed Karen's spray paint from a fence, blushing when Daniel thanked him. Lisa's march grew. 700 joined a March 18th rally. Daisies blanketing City Hall. Mia's nightly reports, now national, showed Greenhaven signs. Marie matters. Karen's car was towed March 19th. Her realty office shuttered, windows papered. She screamed at an empty street, neighbors filming, the clip viral by dawn. Ellen sealed it. On March 20th, 2024, her fraud suit won. The HOA dissolved, its charter voided for gross misconduct. Karen's $600,000 scam, tied to offshore accounts, was state news. She sold her house at a loss, fleeing to a condo 80 miles away by March 21st. Greg quit, tossing his HOA badge in a dumpster, gone by week's end. Sarah volunteered at Marie's rehab, stacking towels, head low. Daniel saw her March 22nd, refilling Marie's water, and nodded. No lecture, just presence. Greenhaven's boycott wasn't just victory. It was obliteration, Karen's empire dust, her name poison. Daniel wheeled Marie to their porch, her hand on a daisy, and felt the shift. The town had torn down the gate, not with law, but with heart. April 2025 draped Greenhaven in a soft spring glow, sunlight filtering through oaks to speckle Azalea Lane with hope. The suburb, once strangled by Karen Whitaker's HOA uniforms and locked gates, had clawed its way free. Where the HOA office had loomed, a brick cage of fines, Marie's garden now stood, a quarter-acre of daisies bursting wild, their white and yellow petals defiant under a breeze. No signs banned touch. Kids wove through, giggling, as neighbors added blooms. A hand-painted board, Joey's work, read, "For Marie." Daniel Harper, 70, wheeled Marie, 68, there each morning, her silver braid catching light as they paused by a daisy bed. 22 months since her stroke on June 12, 2023, had stolen half her body, right side paralyzed, speech slurred. Marie was no fading flower. Her left hand, steadier now, could hold a crayon, and her eyes, bright as ever, spoke when words tripped. Daniel's pain had dulled, not vanished. The gate, Karen's no form, no entry, Greg's shove, Sarah's freeze, still crept into his nights. He'd wake, clutching Marie's wedding ring on its chain, whispering, "I should have smashed it." But guilt no longer chained him. He'd reshaped their world for her, a garden box at wheelchair height, a corner of their bungalow for her sketches, a life of small wins. Marie's speech had grown, slow phrases, Dan, see, bird, and her chuckle warmed his mornings. Therapy at St. Luke's was relentless. For days a week, tracing shapes, squeezing grips, relearning love as LUV. On strong days, she'd say, "Miss you," clear enough to choke him. He'd kiss her fingers, whispering, "Right here, love," and feel 1976, their first date, rain-soaked, her wink, alive again. Greenhaven had healed too, its wounds fading. The HOA's collapse on March 20th, 2024, was a cut that scarred but didn't fester. Karen's $600,000 fraud exposed, her flight to a nowhere condo, Greg's badge tossed. The $750,000 verdict from December 2023, too little for Marie's care, bought a nurse, a better chair, therapy aids. Daniel gave $300,000 to Marie's Light, a stroke fund starting in May 2025. He'd told Ellen Tran, "It's for them." Ellen, now a local advocate, had pushed the garden, funded by Lisa's sales. Marie's daisy sketches, sold online for $100 to $500, raised $10,000. Daniel hung each one in their hall, whispering, "That's my girl." Marie's left hand, dabbling blue paint, answered with a grunt, almost a laugh. The town carried their banner. Tom, 36, led a watch group. No badges, just neighbors with walkie-talkies, stopping bike thefts and stray cats. His chili-packed potlucks, his grin wider since Karen fled. Lisa, 18 and graduating, ran a fundraiser for stroke kids. Her ex-posts, 1.5 million followers, spreading Marie Matters nationwide. Her 2024 short film, Gates Down, with Mia, aired locally, Daniel's voiceover quiet. Love, don't lock. Mrs. Larson, 83, kept her prayers, beads worn smooth for Marie's next word. Joey, 15, now taller than Daniel, painted daisies on the community center, Marie's eyes in a petal. Mr. Hayes, once Karen's man, weeded the garden, muttering, "Gotta stay right." Greenhaven had spats, loud dogs, crooked fences, but it was free. No fines, no gates. Daniel felt it at noon, wheeling Marie through the garden as kids tossed frisbees. He'd stop by a daisy clump, her left hand grazing petals, and recall 1978, a drive-in movie, Marie's laugh louder than the screen. The gate took half of her, but not that. Her sketches, piled in their bungalow, told stories: a daisy in wind, a bird's wing, a hand open. Lisa's sales bought braces for others. Strangers sent cards, calling Marie fighter. Daniel read them aloud, voice catching it, "You changed me." Marie's nice was halting, her eyes proud. He'd set a canvas outside, sunlight on her braid, and watched her draw a petal, her chuckle stronger each week. "My muse," he'd say, taping her art to their wall like treasure. Karen was nothing. Her condo, 80 miles off, was a footnote. Residents had ousted her in late 2024, citing Greenhaven's lesson. Ex-posts, now old, said she sold houses under a fake name, no friends. Greg was less, a gas station clerk, his HOA days buried, his nod blank. Daniel didn't linger on them. Their fall fed Greenhaven's roots, not his heart. A 2024 note from Karen, unopened, offered sorry. He burned it, telling Marie, "Means zero." Her nod, sharp, agreed. The town's justice was better. Karen's name spat, her empire gone. Daniel's was Marie's hand, her Dan smoother daily. Sarah, 30, had settled, peace earned slow. After confessing on TV in March 2024, "I locked the gate." She'd worked at rehab, first unpaid, then hired by fall. She read to patients, her voice calm, her HOA badge long ash. Her sister, Jen, had eased up, their mom's bills lighter. Sarah saw Daniel often, filling Marie's cup, folding blankets. They barely spoke, his nod, her glance enough. On April 5, 2025, Sarah gave Marie a daisy, whispering, "For you." Marie's fine was soft, her left hand touching Sarah's. Daniel watched, no grudge, just time. Sarah's smile, freer now, carried her on, a caregiver who knew gates wait. The potluck came on April 8, 2025, 22 months since the stroke. Daniel hosted in their yard. Daisies climbing the fence, no rules to stop them. Burgers grilled, Tom's chili bubbled, Lisa's playlist. Eagles, always, hummed low. Marie wore a daisy chain, made by Lisa, her wheelchair by Daniel's side. Neighbors filled the grass, 150, loud, swapping tales. Joey sketched, all angles, making Marie grin. Mrs. Larson brought cookies, her hands steadier in spring. Mr. Hayes, improbably, tossed a ball with a kid, smirking. Tom raised Daniel's water glass, whispering, "You held us." Lisa filmed, catching Marie's good, firm and clear. Sarah stayed, her pie shared, watching Daniel fix Marie's chain. "Home," Marie slurred, hand on his, and Daniel glowed, the crowd just them. Marie's garden opened on April 10, 2025, a Thursday, under a sky bright and wide. 300 gathered. Neighbors, stroke families, Lisa's donors. Daniel stood by Marie, her wheelchair steady, her braid shining. Joey's sign glowed. "For Marie, our forever bloom." Daniel spoke, voice low, "This is ours. Grow what lives." He bent, planting a daisy, Marie's love soft but sure. The crowd clapped, eyes wet. Lisa's clip hit 2 million views fast. A stone marker, simple, stood firm. "For Marie, our forever bloom." Daniel traced it, Marie's hand in his, feeling 1976. Rain, her laugh, whole again. Mia's film played nearby, Daniel's voice closing. "No gate keeps us." That night, under dusk, Daniel wheeled Marie home. Kids ran past, voices fading. He paused by their gate, open, forever, and whispered, "We made it, love." Marie's yes was warm, her hand tight. Greenhaven's marks remained, spats, shadows, but its soul stood tall. Daisies waved in the garden, proof of a town that chose heart over locks, a fight that held them. Daniel kissed her forehead, her chain askew, and rolled her inside. Their home bright, their love enough. Greenhaven's stand wasn't just Daniel and Marie's. It was every soul who broke a gate with heart alone. Karen's world didn't bend. It shattered, crushed by a town's will and one woman's truth. Their love, their daisies, showed no rule could chain what's real. If this hit you, smash that like button, share it with someone who'd get it, and join HOA Karen Files for more fights against HOA nonsense. Could you back Daniel? Ever face a Karen's rules? Drop your story below. Maybe a daisy, blossom, for Marie. Subscribe for what's coming. We're not done yet. Stay true, and we'll catch you soon.